Hey, hello, everybody. Please be aware if you are attending this meeting, our meetings are recorded for future viewing. And we are privileged to gather on the traditional territory of the Kwakwaka'wakw. I'd just like to open with a brief statement. The town of Port McNeill mourns the loss of Queen Elizabeth II. Canada, BC, and municipal flags have been lowered at half-mast from 12 p.m. today, September 8th, and will remain in the state until sunset on the day of the funeral of the solemn. I'll call the meeting to order and ask if there are any additions or amendments to the agenda. Seeing none, then can I have a motion, please, to adopt the agenda as presented? Second. Those in favor? Carried. Okay. Moving to item 5A, we have correspondence from the OrcaFest committee. Before we just discuss, I'd just like to thank the committee for their years of working on this. They took over when the chamber was no longer able to do OrcaFest, and it's greatly appreciated, and they certainly had a lot of energy. And I also understand that sometimes it's just time to pass the torch again. But thank you to the OrcaFest committee. The names here: Jaylene, Sarah, Ashley, Sequoia, Jill, and Jessica. I don't think any immediate decisions have to be made on this, but what's your pleasure with this letter?
I'm going to move that we would send a letter of appreciation to each individual who was on that committee and thank them for a heck of a good job over the years.
I'll second that.
You might want to use better words than me.
That's fine. Sure. Something on letterhead on behalf of council. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Just in consideration as to what the next step would be. It is September and we know that events do take time to happen. So we're 11 months away from next year's OrcaFest, if there will be one. And I'm wondering if maybe this isn't something that could be forwarded to our economic development officer, because we do know that events do drive economies of communities where they're located in. So whether, what she does with it, whether she sets up a format, a structure, puts the college community, I'm not too sure, but I'm wondering if this is something that would be suitable to forward into. I'd make that recommendation.
Seconder for that? Absolutely. Discussion? Seconded by Councillor Barron. Any discussion, any comments to be made online?
Is there a motion here?
Yeah, to forward it to our economic development manager. For input, Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Downey, you can repeat what you said.
Just, we know that events do drive local economies. And as the dev officer, perhaps this is something she could be tasked with, to either set up a format, a plan, solicit a new round of volunteers, put forward a binder, as Councillor Barron often proposes for other things, but create an events binder with a timetable and a listing as to, to enable this to happen next year. So I just thought it would be worthy of her skill set.
Okay, so what's the motion? I'm missing it.
Pass this letter and the future of OrcaFest onto the economic development officer for feedback and input.
Perhaps we could see it on the screen. I'm sorry, I'm not catching it totally.
Just one moment. Agree with this, Councilor Mitchell?
Well, it's pretty tiny, but I'll do my best.
Yeah, so Councilor Barron, pass the
Forward the letter to our economic development officer for review, consideration, and/or suggestions for the planning of an Orca Fest event for next year. And that is deliberately open-ended as term.
Okay, that's
Create or develop a plan for.
interesting concept.
I have a
Yeah.
question through the chair,
Yeah, go ahead.
for Councillor Downey. So is the intention of this motion that the town is gonna take it on? It's a little vague. Are we giving it to our economic development officer to find volunteers or another avenue to organize it? Or are we committing to, organizing this event? So I think it needs to be.
It's not, it's none of those. If the one thing to host an event, often there's the fire department, for example, they have a playbook. Where is the playbook for Orca Fest? I'm sure these very capable women in the Orca Fest committee have a playbook, but we don't. So whether we gather their playbook and then add to it, take away, create, come up with a template for what a future Orca Fest might look like. And then as to who would host that or hold it or put it into the works, then that's a separate discussion.
Awesome. Thanks.
If I can just add to that, I know that when the chamber passed it over, I'll say we, because at that time I was with the chamber, we passed all that onto that committee. So I think that's an excellent suggestion that binder is captured from that group and then facilitated on to the next group. Transition. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Sorry, Councillor Mitchell? We can't see you on the screen, so we just need to know if you're opposed or.
I guess I'm trying, there's two paragraphs on the screen.
Sorry, I'll delete this one.
So which one are we
So-
voting on? I'm a little confused. It doesn't say moved and seconded anywhere that I can see.
Sorry, it was Councillor Downey and Councillor Mitchell,
Fair.
or sorry, Councillor Barron.
Well, I didn't second it, but anyway.
No, she's saying Councillor Barron. She said the wrong name.
Sorry, Councillor Barron. Councillor Downey and Councillor Barron. So pass the letter to our economic development manager for review, consideration, and or suggestions for the planning of an Orca Fest event for next year and future.
Okay, so that's the motion we're voting on. Okay.
So we already voted. So all those in favor? Now that we can see everybody? Opposed? It's carried. Moving on then to item 7A, we have the Rogers proposed communication site. So we have a report from our CFO, acting CAO. And the report outlines a number of questions that council had and their reply to our questions.
I would move that we receive and file.
Seconder for that? Okay, discussion, go ahead, Councillor Cole.
No, sorry, I was seconding the motion to receive and file. Thanks.
All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Second is item 7B. We've got the marine fiber optic connection. This is part of the Connected Coast project. And we're looking for input from council on the proposed site and favorable an easement allotted to that. So move for discussion. Move it. Second by Councillor Barron. Thoughts, questions? We have our Public Works Manager Julian with us as well, who was in conversation with contractors. Go ahead with Councillor Cole and then Councillor Downey.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess a question for Public Works. Did we look at, like, partway down the Beach Drive, that we own a whole vacant lot and a pump out station there. So I was a little surprised why we wouldn't utilize, you know, there's already a road and that infrastructure. So yeah, was that site, you know, the one I'm referring to, and was that looked at?
Yeah, so through the chair, I've been assured by, Bailey, that's the contractor, prime contractor, actually is installing all of this up and down the coast, this infrastructure, that they had looked at those, sites further down. So there's been quite a bit of exhaustive research on their part, as to sort of where the best location for, this link to go is.
Okay, thanks. I had another, probably a dumb question. Like, we already have good fiber optic in town. So is this more fiber optic coming in, or is it our capacity leaving town, or, you know, why do we need this? I guess my question. And is there anything in it for us, like, you know, monetarily?
This is part of the Connected Coast initiative, which has been going on, can't remember how many years. And so it's a major project with major dollars from the federal government and the provincial government. Basically, it's for the last mile of, so those that are not currently connected, so that will connect Alert Bay, Sointula to fiber optic and other outlying communities as well. So, first of all, I have got Councillor Downey and then Councillor Mitchell.
So I do have a few questions. The location of it, I am concerned about. It is adjacent to a residential area. It is also against a hill which has been prone to slides. Even though we're working on that, we do have slides on that embankment. Those are two areas of concern for this project. One question that I didn't see the answer to, and I don't know if I was looking in the wrong spot. Can you explain to me? So this is coming in to draw on, will it tie into the fiber optic system we have here in Port McNeill?
No, Councillor Downey, it's my understanding that it's separate.
So this is a separate
Correct.
system.
It's not going to drain. It's nothing to do with the fiber optic, TELUS fiber optic in town.
So our up speed, down speed,
No.
none of that's impacted? Okay. So then I suppose I wonder why we're bringing it right to the edge of our town instead of bringing it to Hyde Creek or the end of Mine Road.
I believe there is another point where they're going in actually at my creek to Red. If you look at the photograph, you can see blue fiber optic cable.
Oh, yeah,
You see there's a put in right at my creek to Red. And then the other one to the sort of west, if you will, is the one on Beach Drive, which is labeled C1003.
So why is it coming into the community of Port McNeill?
Going out.
It's
It's
going-
actually going out to service all of this is which we mentioned, this has actually been in the works for 5 years or something anyway.
So this line continues to get,
It's going to, all of this is feed of fiber optic high speed internet to places like Mountain Island, even like Kingham and all of these outlying very remote places.
So who's laying the fiber, this new fiber here in the town of Port McNeill to feed this then?
That would be the contract group, which is Bay West on behalf of the Strathcona Regional District and City West.
Can we see a map of the route that would be taking through town?
I'm sure that comparison, yeah.
The reason I'm asking is I can see it connecting to town. We're told it's got nothing to do with our current fiber optic infrastructure in place right now. This is a standalone, separate thing completely. But if that's the case, where is that we watched fiber optic come in and be laid down from Campbell River all the way up here, and we watched what that looked like. So where is this new fiber
Right.
coming in to feed this? Where is that?
I'll have to get that information.
Could be a pool because this one is going to be patched up all over, but that's a good question.
Yeah,
Our staff will get that answered.
I do not believe that's in this package from Bay West.
Councilor Mitchell, you have any more questions?
I guess my concern is that, we've already got a generator sitting down there on the beach that turns on the sewage pump, which we paid 70 grand for last year or more. I'm not sure why they wouldn't just bring it in at that beach point and run it over to Alert Bay or over to Sontula. It looks like that's where that one would go, and save the cost to the taxpayers of putting in another generator and then the attendant noise and fuel and all that. It sucks. It's, it's not a sensible use of resources for the Canadian taxpayer. And it certainly doesn't do anything to improve our carbon footprint. If we're even at all concerned about that, running 2 generators when the power goes out, when we could easily run 1. So I think that needs to be rejected on that basis alone, to give them an easement to run another generator and annoy neighbors when we've already got one couple of 100 feet down the beach that can do the same thing. We're just talking about a beachhead to run a cable from here. We're not talking about a transmitter or something that needs to be particularly located. So I think they haven't done their homework, and so I would turn it down. It's not, doesn't make sense to the taxpayer. We're paying to do this when we don't need to. So what? It's federal money. It's our money. We paid the taxes.
Thanks to staff.
Yeah. Councilor Mitchell, I don't know if that would be some sort of like an agreement, a lease agreement, maybe talking contracts and maintenance, of our town infrastructure, servicing something that's completely unrelated to the town. So there would be kind of quite a few complications to do with that, with sharing our infrastructure, which personally I don't think.
Well, I'm sorry. We got excess capacity in our generator, and we're talking about running an internet connection here. We're not talking about huge power demands.
No, it's minimal.
Plug it in when the power's off. We're not, this is doable. If this was a business, there's no way we would put a generator 200 feet down the beach when we already own one. So why are we doing it? We're the taxpayers. I'm against it.
So a couple of comments. One, I have the same concern with the generator being so close to the home, even though in speaking with Julian earlier, saying that this is a different type of generator, which is lower, but it does lower in noise, but it does say that it will come on during a power outage, and there's a number of power outages that we have. And so, my question was, has the due diligence been done with the neighboring people where the generator is going to be? The other concern I have, which I also mentioned to our public works, is it would be really great if the contractor for Connected Coast was here to answer the questions rather than to have our own public works answering the questions on their behalf. I don't think it's fair to put Julian into the bite on this because it isn't our project. And, Councillor Mitchell, Councillor Downey brought up some good concerns. And I really think it would behoove them to be here to answer our questions and be able to tell us definitively why or why not they could do these things and why this particular location was chosen. Do you have a?
That made total much more sense to me, and what, how I am with maps. This map actually has 2 things on it, say eelgrass, and I don't see any eelgrass identified.
So could I give support for a motion then to invite the contractors to come in for our next council meeting to answer council's questions?
I'll motion the verbs.
Okay.
The other.
Any comments? All those in favor then? Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you very much. That's pile of stuff here. Okay. Moving on, we've got item 7C. We have the sanitary and storm sewer upgrade increase budget. So here, Staff is looking for direction on the increase in the budget. We do have staff available if anybody has a question. Before we go on to the next item, which then we have to make a decision where that funding comes from. So anybody like to begin? You can see that Hemlock Street, Haddington and Quetzino, they are both high priority or very high priority projects. They've come in over budget, which is not surprising. I think every municipality, every organization is finding this happening. Yeah. Go ahead, Councillor Downey.
I guess I'll speak for me. I see the importance and validity of these three projects together, but I think it does come down to where's the money coming from first. And unless we talk money first, it's difficult to talk through the projects. Maybe we could go to the financial discussion first and then circle back to, you know, if all three go ahead or whatever the case may be as council chooses.
That makes sense to me. The rest of council's in favor. We'll move on to that then. We'll just jump ahead to 7D and find out where, I know that staff has done some research onto where the possibility of these could come. There's some further information from staff on where we might be able to find funding. So,
Yeah, so through the chair, we do still have COVID funds.
can you hear okay online, everybody? Okay.
The sound is pretty bad, but I can manage.
You come closer if you need, or I can speak louder, try to speak louder.
Having proper microphones would probably be the most appropriate way of solving it.
It's through the owl. So I'll just continue. So we do have the COVID funds still available. We can look at the allocation of funds that are there. I was told that we could possibly use the funds to budget for other items. Some things that could be used is budgetary revenue shortfalls and that. So, for example, the pool, we can look at the pool and see if we fell short there. Pull some of those COVID funds to maybe help finance some of these capital items. The hardware as well, maybe we could look there what the budget was last year, year before for COVID and shortfalls there. Saying we have some other capital items like your security system, which falls within, you know, office equipment, computers, technology that maybe we could use to help fund some of this as well. We do have some reserves that we can look at as well. I would leave that coming to council to make that final decision. Public Works Manager Julian and myself have looked at some of the reserves and some due to state for future projects that are coming up soon. So some we do need to commit and touch, but I'm open to looking at the reserves of council as well. To do that. So that I would take that discussion around COVID funds soon to reallocate kind of where they were. We can look at again what the town, where the town is now compared to where we were 2 years ago when we first allocated. So maybe discussion for you.
I do have a question about the, so 309,000, if some of those funds, COVID funds were reallocated, how much do you think we could, rough estimate, do you think we might be able to garner 100,000, 150,000?
To be honest, I don't want to say we're right now until I can look at those budgetary shortfalls that we had, you know, between the pool, harbor.
And I guess the other concern that I have right now is the longer we wait, the longer the project takes. We have the window with the weather, we have possible increase in costs because of supply chain issues. Yeah, and then next week, all of us are away as well. So how do we move forward in a timely manner?
We have gas tax, money that this was kind of specifically for this sort of stuff.
Some of the gas taxes are connected to that.
Okay.
So the first, the sanitary sewer upgrades is gas tax funded. And then the active transportation part of that is also funded. So that's the grant.
Councillor Mitchell?
I'm really having a difficult time understanding Brenda. But my question is, succinctly, do we have reserves or alternate funding sources that we can come up with for up to the 300 and potentially 372,000 that we're going to need? Because
So I can share,
I don't see that any of these projects is not important.
sure, I can share the balance of our reserves right now, and we can maybe look at them, and council can have us see where we're at. And we can go through that.
But I guess if I may just make a comment regarding the COVID funds. In speaking with Public Works, we did incur, and I'll backtrack. COVID funds were also lost revenue and also for startup costs. Because the pool sat dormant, our startup costs were significant in order to get our chemicals and stuff. And from what I understand is those costs, even for those materials, were substantially higher this year than they have been in the past. So when I consider what a pool revenue might have been in 2019 versus a pool revenue in 2022, it would seem to me that there is an opportunity there for some of the COVID funds to come back into our operating budget or back into our operations for, I'm not sure if I've got the right word here, back into the operating side here. It would release the funds. It would release those funds for projects such as this. So we've got the revenue shortfall. We've got the material cost to actually get the pool up and running, which was substantial. Again, in the harbor, it would be the same thing. If we go and look at harbor revenue 2019 versus 2022, what is that shortfall? Is there another chunk of finances there that we can then allocate over into and free up for this project? And I do know we do have our forestry funds. They've been there, and these projects in my mind are all worthy of for the use of COVID or the forestry community forest funds. But it would be very nice to draw down those COVID dollars and in a way that is permissible and beneficial for the community.
So is it appropriate to make a motion that,
Well, staff is going to show the reserves for a moment.
So-
Yeah, and then-
Councillor Mitchell and Councillor Cole, can you see the reserves? So they can see them, you can't. So, not sure how to do this. So I'm just gonna share with, councillors in the room, and then I'll bring it back over to share with. Or I might be able to do, hang on. Just wondering if I can share it.
Yeah, then you should be able to drag it. Usually when we do screen share, they're small in the corner, so can they still see?
Are you still able to see the reserves? Councillor Cole, Councillor Mitchell?
What is it you're asking me?
Can you see an Excel spreadsheet that I'm sharing with you?
We can just see
No.
your motion, where you made the motions.
That's. I'm just gonna print it for the councillors in the room.
Yeah, give us just 2 minutes.
We
a
can see
minute,
that now.
and okay. Yeah, you can see it, but we can't, so they're just
I
gonna print it
understand.
up for us. While we're
Yeah, now it's
experiencing these
unreadable.
technical-
Yeah, I'm just printing for the councillors that are in the room, the attendees.
If we could determine what, if any, those additional startup costs and revenue shortfalls, that would be my first go-to is grab those funds, free them up and apply them here. And then after that,
The rest comes from the
reserves or community forest.
wouldn't we have had costs for starting at the museum as well?
Mhm.
Yes. That could come out of gold. There's been a few. That's in this.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. But just that, when it comes out, it's just read it.
Can we see the rest of the screen? The rest of that list, the non-statutory reserves, we can only see the first four. And we can't
So
use
it should be-
statutory reserves for this, right? It has to be non-statutory. So we got $200,000 on the old school reserve. We could grab that. That would be half of it.
If I may have
why
a
not?
question.
If we make a motion, I don't understand why we couldn't take it out of the statutory reserves if we make a motion to do so.
Yeah, that's where the key.
Yeah, that's where the community
Yeah.
forest money is. I think it requires a motion and yeah. Sorry, who was asking a question on the screen? My apologies, I jumped over you.
Yeah, me, thank you. It's Derek. So we have a reserve for stormwater. We're tapping that right down, or does that leave 46,000? Can't quite see.
Yeah, so, Councillor Cole, so 100,000 is committed to the Huntington Wetland Storm Sewer upgrade from that reserve. So there's a balance right now of 46.
So it
But you were
says-
saying, go ahead,
Yeah.
Councillor.
Yeah, can we just apply that? I mean, it's
46.
totally related to it. The Haddington.
Was that your comment though about there needs to be some leftover for future projects?
Sorry, Julian?
Yeah, and again, that's council's wish, like, you know, how much do we want to keep in the, reserves for future projects or matching funding that may be coming?
If I can be so bold, we need from staff the definitive answer so that we can make a decision. Yes, we can say it's councils, but do you have a project in mind that it's important for us to keep that money
Is it
aside?
46,000?
Yes.
I would leave it in it.
Just maybe a point here, the Haddington Quatsino drainage, which is our storm water, the tender has come in under budget. So we actually have some funds freed up there, so.
Councillor Cole, did you have a question?
Just more of a comment, you know, a bunch of times I've suggested a stormwater reserve, like an actual thing on the utilities bill, because we have millions of dollars report saying we need storm drains, but we have no way of raising the money for that. And we have a problem with fugitive water in town. Everyone knows it. We've spent tons of money on the slide on the hill, but there's no way to sustain that. And you know, I guess we're just praying for grants again, but I really hope future councils looks at this again, and every property should be, you know, taxed $100 or whatever. At least there's some money coming in to deal with these water issues. Thanks.
Sorry, were you walking us through these reserves?
So, yeah, we can go through, so there is this line fund here. Capital priority, I'm not sure if there's anything related to that, the fire truck, fire department, that's the reserve, there's not much left after the pumper truck. Harvard staying with the PDOT. We have this large $1.8 million that reserve. Public works equipment, but maybe a need here soon coming up for new fleet equipment, so I would not to take that.
Well, the statutory reserves, I think, sorry, we can make a motion, but it has to
To be
be,
spent.
yeah, it has to
Yeah.
correlate, so none of those, yeah, yeah.
So Beach Drive Reserve. There's a general of 100 that we could possibly pull from there, and then we determine with COVID funds, what is up there. So that's a possibility, 100,000. The old school is up for discussion. The pool. Do you think for the pool, for the reserve, because that was large within properties?
You know, where did that come from? Like 168, so.
This is a user.
That is
That
interesting.
is.
Yeah. there are sort of, potential building upgrades, minor building upgrades down the road, but nothing pressing like that, like, not that I can see. So we just kind of move it. Yeah.
It's really hard to do without, we're missing pieces of the puzzle.
Yes.
We don't have pieces of the pie. It's very difficult. Because we could sit here and say we take 150 out of the
Yeah.
pool.
Yeah.
And in my brain, I go, okay, so if we needed that 150 next year, I'd just take it out of the community forest, but I may not be here in
Yeah.
6 weeks. So. Then you're disadvantaging the pool.
Yeah, to me personally, I think drawing it down with the COVID funds as much as we possibly can. I mean, we have given the community a good amount of time to apply and there's been a lot of good projects done. But, I think looking at the COVID funds, how we could draw down on that and then whatever's left over to come out of our North Island Community Forest Fund. Make the most sense. Councilor Downey, you had your hand up.
Just questions, sewer surplus is sitting there at 314,000 and yet we have a significant variance between budget and tender. Is it possible to pull those funds? I mean, we have a reserve. Would it not be logical to use those funds for the sanitary sewer upgrade?
Just if I may, yeah, this was set up, this reserve was set up some time ago, and it was on the heels, I don't know if you remember, of the upgrade to the potable water system. We completed that in 2018 with phase 7. And basically, then CFO Dan Rogan and myself were proposing to council that we know that the infrastructure of the sanitary sewer system, just like the storm sewer system that Councillor Paul mentioned, there are 3 key infrastructure systems for the town, and looking forward, we'll need to spend an awful lot of money on them. So I would be very reluctant to, now that we have that set up for the sanitary sewer, I would keep putting money into it, and I'd be very reluctant to take that out.
This is a sanitary sewer project.
Correct.
So why wouldn't we take money out of there for the sanitary sewer project? It's kind of like
It's-
having money in an equipment reserve and
Right.
financing a new truck.
Right.
Why would you do that?
This particular project, with all due respect, is like a speck in the whole scheme of things with sanitary sewer upgrade, is what I'm saying. We're gonna need an awful lot of money down the road with substantial upgrades, as was done with the water system, which, as many in the room are aware, I mean, that was, several hundred thousands every phase, if not millions. The last phase that I did was $2 million.
But I mean, we're talking about possibly financing. It's only 49,000. We're talking about financing money when we have money sitting in reserve for sanitary sewer.
No, absolutely.
I'm not gonna count.
Yeah.
But the 49,000 financing, proposed here is only if you drop one of the projects. So we're actually looking at the 309 whole thing. And if we go back to item C, they're listed both as priority and high priority.
100%, that's what I'm saying, if we have money in sanitary sewer and it can be applied towards the sanitary sewer. And then if you're telling us that there's stuff on the horizon, then decisions need to be made, such as what Derek's talking about, or the utility tax has to go up. But that has to come before council in a timely manner so that those decisions can be made, not made when you're told, hey, it's already been tendered, there was one tender, this is what it's gonna cost you, now you gotta find the money. Does that make sense?
Yep, this is entirely council's question.
It's difficult because as we know, it's mentioned just earlier, many of them just it's the same thing. You get the issue done, you put it up to tender, it comes back, and everything was increased. Like everyone that I spoke to, some of these are facing the exact same challenges. So it's not specific to our town. It's understand. So it's difficult for us to even say, like we put it out, we think it's going to cost this much. But when the tenders come back and they're 38% more than we had anticipated, I mean, that's a tough one to find that.
But you're telling me that we've tendered this, and I'm assuming we have a production schedule from Upland, because Upland's the only one that tendered it. I'm assuming they meet all our criteria, and that if we're gonna go ahead with the project, that is the how we would do it. Like that, all of that background has been done. So basically this, if we find the money, this is you're successful and you've got a timeline for substantial completion that you want to get going on.
Yeah.
So is that not a, yes, we all agree that these projects need to be done. There is money here. We just have to figure out which pots it goes from.
Yeah.
So do we not motion to go ahead with the 3 projects? And then our CFO would bring us something that says, hey, we can take this much out of COVID funds. And then you've got these other couple of spots to go to.
Counselor Mitchell, go ahead.
I'm going to make a motion that we proceed with these projects. As I said, I can't see one that shouldn't be proceeded with. And the CFO can come back with a couple of suggestions for what funds we can pull this money from. We have enough money to do it. It needs to get done. So I move that we move forward with these 3 projects.
Seconder for that motion?
I'll
Second by
second.
Counselor Barron. Sorry.
So sorry, that's, sure, or Downey, both.
Yeah. And any further discussion on that? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried.
If I may just make a comment.
Yeah.
I think it was important to have the conversation about where the pots of money are. And just be mindful of reserves and overages that we've got. So, yeah, it took a long way just to say, yeah, we approve it and we will still delegate it to staff, but I appreciated the conversation.
Okay, we'll move to item 8A. Looking for a motion to give fourth and final reading to bylaw number 705/2021 zoning bylaw. Moved, seconded by Councilor Barron. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Is there anybody here from the public? No. Motion to adjourn then. Seconded, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great weekend. See you at UBCM. For those who are going.
Thank you.